Hello everybody, hope you're doing okay. Welcome to Charterhouse Track. Now I come on to do another 800 metre session. I've got 500 metres, but I'm doing 300 fast, 100 float, and then 100 sort of like a kick at the end. And then two of them, 5 minutes recovery, and then 6 by 150. So the problem with training for 800s in the middle of the winter is it's very cold. So I've got my Gore arm warmers on. I've got a new ensemble of sort of camouflage kit, really. New Nike top here, and also some Nike Trail Lava Leaps shorts, and I've got the Vaporfly 3s in as well. Did think about wearing track spikes for this one, but it's so cold and you've got to do a bit of warm up to get here, so I thought I'll just keep it simple. I've had a bit of a niggle in my left knee for the last couple of days, so I'm hoping it's going to be okay. Not much running in this one, so hopefully it should be right. So I think for the 300 metre fast bit, I'm looking for about 55, 56. Doesn't sound very fast, but I don't want to get around these ones without pulling anything. Also interesting with these float sessions, I did a few of them back in the day. I remember one classic one when in a mile race, and we had 300 to go, and I just sort of kicked off like it was the last 300 of one of these split ones. We used to do 300, then 200, then 300 to finish. So that was a good one for an 800. But I'd be easy today just with this 300, then 100, then 100. So I've set up the GoPro, I think, on the home straight, and then you can see me coming around twice, hopefully. Oh, that was very painful indeed. 54 for the 300, so I was pleased with that. I did actually feel like I was perhaps going flat out there rather than 800 metre speed, so maybe that's a bit too quick. But it is a very cold day. There's a bit of wind in the air, but just reasonably miserable. Vaporflies did okay in that one, actually. It's not the ideal shoe for a track session, but I want to try and save the legs a bit. Right, so I got a 5 minute interval, then I had one more go. This session's over and done with quickly, isn't it? So yeah, the training's going okay. I've got this first race on December the 10th. I've got the British Masters 5k next Sunday. So I want to still keep up the sort of short road races as well. Just see how I can do, especially this time of year. 5k seems pretty short as it is. And then at least the indoors will be indoors, as it were. Got my friend Phil York coming as well to race, and Kevin Pye, fellow veteran, he's an M60, same as Phil, so between the three of us, I think we're the three oldest there. Anyway, right, let's continue this little jog and then see where we go. Okay, the main set's done. That was a 57. It felt more controlled though. I felt I was trying to sort of work through that a bit better. So although it was slightly slower, it felt a bit more like 800 metre speed, because it didn't feel like it was absolutely tying up at the 300 metre point. Well, that's what I think anyway. Maybe we need to take something out of that. Still earlier was a 57. I think that would be in the summer. I'm hoping that would be more like 500 metre speed, but yeah, it is what it is. And right now 6150, so nice and smooth and controlled, Matt said. Not flat out, but again a bit like that second 800 there. Just trying to smooth it out, feel some speed, but not feel like I'm absolutely caning it. Okay, let's have a look at the stats on Garmin Connect. I was using my Garmin 965 that I recently got, which is a very nice watch. So I was using track mode, so you can see here that the actual track is mimicking the actual track very well. And if I put it onto satellite view, you can see that even better. It's almost perfect, I would say. Maybe just slightly inside the track there on coming into the home straight, but not too bad. And maybe just slightly not aligned with the actual line there, but yeah, really nitpicking, I would say. If we scroll down and look at the metrics, we see the elevation was 87 meters throughout, which is good because that was on a track, so you wouldn't expect to be any up and downs. Heart rate was interesting today. It was really, really low. I only got to a maximum of 136, which is low even for me, I think. I think that was partly with the fact that it was quite cold. I mean, well, relatively for us, it was 7 degrees, Garmin Connect said, with just a 7 mile an hour, largely crosswind actually, so
down both straights, I didn't really feel it too bad. So conditions, I suppose, weren't too bad for running. It just felt like really quite cold, and it was a bit of drizzle in the air, and it was quite a damp feeling. Track was sort of like fairly dry, but didn't have any problems with the grip on the Vaporflies. I did find around the bends that they are a bit unstable when you try to run fast around the bend. Almost a bit too much stack, but yeah, it is what it is. And yeah, the good thing about those shoes is that they just save the legs so well, and they're so fast as well. Well, these days, I mean, obviously I'm not running amazingly quickly, just under 5-minute mile pace at the very best, whereas back in the day it would have been sort of like a minute a mile faster. So yeah, I think at the moment these are working fine. So let's have a look at some of the stats. I always find that the metrics are rather sort of skewed to sort of long distance intervals. So you've only got a trailing load of 77 and only a 2.2 anaerobic benefit. You kind of wonder what you have to do to get a high anaerobic benefit when basically that was an anaerobic session. So yeah, maybe I just need to do more volume. But yeah, in terms of like preparing myself for an 800 metre race, I thought it was very useful. I think these sessions with the float, you have to remember that an 800 metre race really is a sort of like, how long can you maintain an almost sprinting speed? And then what you do find, it's one of the few races I find where you don't really ever accelerate at the end, even the very best people. If you look at how the world records were set, even Rudisha in 2012 and Coe in his 1981 world record, I think they all ran the second lap slightly slower than the first one. My PB 155.8 with a 55, 56 sort of first lap and then a 60, although it felt like I was working really hard. So yeah, the whole idea of these floats is to sort of like practice running again when you've got very, very lactate filled legs, just sort of get an idea for how it will feel in the last 100 metres of the race. So the stamina there is interesting. It starts off 100%. I think because you've got quite a rest, you almost like get fully recovered. Maybe only in the 150s when I had slightly shorter recoveries, it was marking itself down. But yeah, you kind of feel like it perhaps could have gone on and done quite a few more of them, but it's quite nice in a way just coming away with the session feeling you could have done a bit more without being totally exhausted. Let's have a look at the intervals. I made this a bit smaller because try and fit it all in. So 54.6 for the first 300. Maximum heart rate there, an average, really, really low. I think some of these metrics in these short intervals may reflect the fact that the data is just really skewed by the fact you've got really quite a short space of time. So it's interesting though that I only got to 136 at the end of that one, and also 136 at the end of the second one. So what I did was 500 meters, and I took a manual lap when I started, and at the 300 point, and at the 400 meter point, and obviously at the end, just to get a feel for what these stats were doing. Interesting here looking at the cadence. On the first 300 it averaged 197, and on the second one only 190. So that might explain why it felt like it was more controlled on the second one, but it also might be the factor that I said that there's quite a short sort of space of window of data points here, so maybe it's slightly skewed. And in fact, even though I had quite a high cadence, I still technically had a higher stride rate, 1.71 on the first one, 1.65 on the second. I did actually manage to get the final 100 quicker in the second interval there. Although, having said that, when you look at the data here, bizarrely, my stride length actually went down going faster, 145 compared to 150. So again, I think that's sort of slightly odd data. And if you look at the first one here, yeah, again, the stride length was actually lower, going a lot faster than the float bit, so it doesn't make a lot of sense. But I think that's just partly the fact it's really short amount of data. Left-right balance, just slightly over to the left, which is fairly normal to me. But I suppose when you're turning left and collapsing in on the left foot a bit around the bend, that's perhaps not entirely surprising. More weight is then on the left foot, isn't it, I guess. Look at the powers here. I had 495. This is Garmin power, not Stride power, by the way. Not reusing my Stride anymore. Has anyone got the Duo Stride? That seems to be a crafty way of making you spend more money for not particularly any valuable reason, because you get all these left-right metrics on the Garmin anyway. Anyway, so 495 average power on the first 300 and 465 on the second. But interestingly, the power went down. I think that partly explains the fact, if we look at the graph here, the wind was basically a headwind technically into the home straight. So when I was actually going slow, I technically had a headwind according to Garmin. I think it does a rather poor effort really of the effect of that. I don't think that 7 mile an hour wind was enough to make the fact that I was running 6 seconds slower have a higher power. So that doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Anyway, that's partly why I don't really pay much attention to power really, because half the time you're sort of scratching your head thinking what's going on there. Yeah, you can see here that 390 in the float and 398 in the fast bit, and on the second one I was 437 and 416, so I actually went down in power despite the fact I went up like 6 seconds in actual pace, which makes very little sense. Anyway, let's go back to the 150s.
Right, I need to work out where is the 50 metre start point. I think I must be on the bend here, mustn't it? Looks like a sort of a javelin runway. So we'll start here, then go to the 200 metre point, and then we'll just carry on and do these around the track. Okay, let's put my camera up here and get on with these. These sessions are over very quickly. I feel like I could go around again, but yeah, don't want to overkill the lactate, but you've got to do these things to get used to it. No real hiding place from these things. You can't jog around these sessions for sure. Okay, the 150's done. They were about 26s and 27s, so it felt quite good. Nice sort of feeling of speed. Just enough sort of distance to feel like you're getting into it, but not so long that you feel like you're tying up. Although I think the last few strides I was feeling that was about it. Anyway, so another session back. I managed to get through that without any collapsing hamstrings or calves or anything like that, which is good. So I run back to the car now, and job done. Yeah, makes a change from a 3-hour run for marathon training on a Sunday, doesn't it? 2 500s and 6 150s effectively. Okay, so if you found this interesting, like and subscribe on that, and see you in the next one then. Bye.